just want to say a warm welcome to everybody. It's a very special broadcast, very, very special broadcast, and we're going to try to keep them tidy, clean, and precise. Customer on a Monday. So once more, one welcome una to this program. Please, as usual, at the ask for let we observe the ritual. Can we please share this video audio? Okay. And just before we start, if you see the background, the layer is about coronavirus. This is not a joke. We get for look after ourselves. We get for be serious. Prevention, as they say, is better than cure. So, Usai me the Public Health England don't pull boku bulletin for advice as to waiting we for do. And as ordinary Joes up and down people, then we get for go look for the daily bread. Is appropriate or imperative on we part that we observe the advices there with and Giri. And sure enough, you can see they make a lot of sense. Like clean your hands. Always make sure say you clean your hands, because one major way our contact can be made is through handshaking, hugging, and the rest of it. So it's fine for let we clean we hand, because we can use that for touch with face. And you know, say subconsciously we can touch with face over 20 times in something like a minute or two. I mean, just they read up on them, which is really wonderful. It's not like we know about it, and I make it important for let we wash we hand them, because the hand we can use them for transmit anything directly into a system. So wash your hand clean, use good soap, good water, enough water, enough soap, dry your hand, make them clean, and make sure say now routine practice. Blow your nose, or when you sneeze, cover them with your elbow, not to your hand, because now that you try to avoid, because your hand gets so much for do. Dispose of tissue. Wash your hand at the most available opportunity, okay? So please, the information boku out there. I remember some 3 weeks ago, we observed this outbreak where the epicenter then was at Wuhan in China. I did a little brief broadcast on this because there was little understanding on the part of what it was, but I knew it was a scourge. I know with that kind of outbreak, it will get a kind ramification there if they don't do something as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, some were careless, and here we are today, and this is quite threatening. And don't say this, some 3 weeks ago, that is going to change the world like we've never seen it before. And that transformation, they take place right now. Okay, Fambulem, another thing I want to touch on quickly is the show, the expected show na Sierra Leone in about, today the 15th, in about 6 days time. Anyway, welcome to the program today, the 16th of March, the 15th of March rather, 2020. In about 6 days time, we'd expect a show na Sierra Leone to be hosted by Sierra Leonean rap artist, Cardinero. So I've been planning for do a show on that. We, as usual, that's what we do here, critical thinking. Get ideas, or critical thoughts from either side of the aisle, because everybody needs to be heard, left and right, pro and con. Unfortunately, there are forces out there where no one for letting in the war. And waiting and fail for realizes they can't really stop that, because when one pull out, there are many others who can do one. But you do yourself a disservice, and whoever you want for represent a disservice where they can't lend your voice to something where you believe in when you cannot be yourself. Having said this, ladies and gentlemen, we need to move to today's topic, which is very, very important, which we title the transformation of corruption. Title and the transformation of corruption, and for a very, very good reason. I make a title as such. Having said this again, ladies and gentlemen, I want to go straight to the point. And part of the point, as I want to go into now a report or part of a report. Now I want to read. Okay, because it's important for let we keep things in context. This is what we do here. We'll not just come in the blab. Okay, we want to engage people in a sober debate on a national platform not to then cheap debates them about what individual A say and individual B say. We're talking about issues of substance, issues relating to the progress of a nation. How? So anyway, we want to take a quick look at the IMF then report, which now been a review report for Sierra Leone back in 2019. That will have been in November 14 of 2019. Before I go into the depth of the report, two things quickly. One, I actually want to bear with me and follow as I read certain elements of that report there. But at the very introduction of the report, this is quite important because that's how many a times we get carried away without understanding the nitty-gritty of the report, the critical side of the report. And then we can see for, you just get carried away. So this is what the report says at the very beginning. This is not the IMF staff report, because when the staff compile a report, that report is then taken to the senior board, where they will review them, look into waiting a staff report recommend, and then try for verify them before then action whatever thing they want for action. But in the meantime, this remains in the review phase where the bosses then get for look at them. Hence the significance as to why I want to read this first paragraph. So the end of the mission press release, it includes the statement from the IMF staff where the team convey the preliminary finding from we country, okay? The IMF of itself, the body of itself, they want to make a known, and this is important, that the views, I repeat once more, the views that are expressed in this report and in all the other subsequent reports of this nature, okay? Hear me what I say, that when these reports are written, okay, by IMF staff in the country, that report still need to go further and forward for further scrutiny, because there is an idea, there is a logic, there is a concept around this report, and when they don't write them, it don't mean say that be it all, end it all of the report. So IMF say the views expressed in the statement of this report, while they talk about which completed a 2019 review mission in Sierra Leone and called the ECF IMF staff report, okay? It not necessarily represents the views of the IMF. And the reason again, Fambulwa, they emphasize on this, because many a times we have engaged ourselves in discussions, in debates, sometimes vigorously, and sometimes you can see the ignorance inside. And one advice I get for the people in tonight is, and that goes for every one of us, whenever you're not certain, not begin add then conjunction them, inside your sentence, but and if something was significant. If it's an ordinary debate argument, then of course you can go ahead and try for meander your way, or try for advance your theory, your thoughts, and etc. But on a report, on a conclusive report, we establish on a mission we peer reviewed, like articles we peer reviewed. There is no if and but about it. It's just factual because it's been peer reviewed by peers. Okay? So whenever you come to some kind of halt and then you want to maneuver your way out by going but if, that's exactly where we begin to miss the point. So this particular report does not necessarily represent the views of the IMF, okay? The executive board, because you can get the younger one and the smaller one, them working then at the field agents, then where they can send for go represent them, write up report and submit their report, and then reports are subject to scrutiny prior to approval by the executive board. And the reason why is because it tantamounts to being corrupted. Their official and the way they can send a like their NGO them, the master planners them, then they away from the ground itself, sometimes for a variety of reasons. Either the ground not too secure enough, either the atmosphere not too secure enough, either the conduciveness of the nature of things now the country not conducive enough, so they rather use others, and most likely the locals. Now you can see the NGOs them with extra arms, and they have been funded. So you will see people and they ride motorcycles with insignia on them representing the organizations them within they represent. They fly all over the place. These people are prone to corrupt practices because when they go take report for their potential employer, they could be easily influenced. So therefore, when they write their reports, and their reports are subject to scrutiny. So this one is no exception about the IMF 2019 report on the review mission to Sierra Leone. Okay. So when the staff prepare the report, that is subjected to management approval. And that management approval, they will be the item where they present to the IMF executive board for letting them hold a deliberation on that, and then subsequently a discussion. I think I don't, explain this very, very much. And the reason why I go the extreme end is because you get a group of people where either deliberately not try to understand, or a deep degree of ignorance plus arrogance, which is very, very dangerous. But it's not going to take them, anywhere, because facts are just facts. Facts are just facts. So we look into all of this, and then we do the presentation. So the Sierra Leonean authorities and the IMF mission, we know say they conclude the discussion. There have been a couple of reviews, I think, going back from the time where the SLPP led government of retired Brigadier, His Excellency Julius Maada take office back in 2018. I believe that was sometime around April or May. There have been discussions, ongoing discussions between the IMF and the Republic of Sierra Leone. Because remember, we're not donor-driven economy now we get. So therefore, we're subjected to waiting and people there tell we, and therefore we get for meet the terms and conditions with Ngiwi for letting them able to cut small team Ngiwi so that we will continue for sustain we republics. When I say we republics, I just generalize them in terms of most of the African countries, them, or not only African countries, but generally countries around the globe who are donor dependent. Okay. So the Sierra Leonean authorities and the IMF conclude one of such many, many reviews since they take power. So this one, now the last one as far as I'm aware, because I've been searching for the 2020, because this has been subject to another 2020 review. In 2020, we're in the third month, and I think that should have happened in sometime in January. I will need for search the databases or websites of the IMF, the World Bank, and other relevant, authentic body them for this particular reviewer they talk about, because I not be really get sufficient time prior to coming into studio. So this particular report, when at the 2019 back in November, okay, the IMF said, and this is important because again, that in context of what we want to talk about. So it's not one-sided, it's not narrow, the discussion is not polemic, it's open, it's wide, it's objective, it's reference-driven. So the economy, they continue for recover. The economy, they continue for recover. However, the outlook remains challenging, and improving the well-being of we people when are the paramount or supposed to be the paramount concern of the country is well underway. A song by the late Michael Joseph Jackson, may his soul rest in peace, about if you want to make a change, you get for look yourself in the mirror. And especially with the current leadership, they actually get for looking themselves in the mirror on the basis of which they campaign. Who were they before they assume power? Waiting them in promise the people of the country. So you see Pekin in a street running up and down, left, right, and center with no food to eat, no shoes to wear, no clothes to wear, nowhere to go. Some of them, no homes, street sleeping, rough sleeping, on the rise, and on that basis, then you take over power and do a promise that you will turn things around. But today, those things are not being turned around, whereas you've got the opportunity. So waiting people and on the hide behind the IMF reports there where I want to expose tonight before I go further. Because the IMF reports say, and I say this because I've heard it many a times, that while the economy is continuing to recover, the outlook remains challenging. I am actually quoting, I think I get a first caller. Okay. Actually think I've got a first caller. Hello, yeah, caller, are you trying to make a contribution to the show, please? Yeah, just hold the line for me 1 minute. Let me play some magic if I can.
Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got our first caller on the line. I was just developing, and we are lucky always on this platform to always, almost always have somebody to call. Looking at the number, of course, this is a familiar face and voice, regular contributor to this program. But for the benefit of others who don't know, will you introduce yourself and just go straight away into what you want to talk about, please?
Thank you very much, Brother Prince. This is Mohammed Kamara, commonly known as Superman, and I just want to comment again. I want to commend you for highlighting the importance of people looking after themselves during these tough times of this particular COVID-19 that is ravaging all around the world at the moment. And it's a good reminder for all of us to be careful and following the directions from the public health authorities. I just want to comment on I'm somebody who is very, very critical of the IMF. So the IMF are always looking after their interests. And what we've learned over the years, many states in the global south, states in the global south are mainly in Africa and in the Middle East and Asia. They refer to these states as states in the global south. What we've learned is that the IMF always comes in and gives stringent conditionalities. So it's like a perpetual cycle. We keep borrowing, the money's not enough, we'll go back to them, we'll do it again, we'll come back, and it's not benefiting us at all. For them to say the country is recovering, but whatever caveat they put in it, to me, it's very, very misleading.
Yeah,
because
super. If I can pause you there quickly, because I would like to fine tune the prognosis of the report, that I am reading. I get you that you are kind of suspicious of this world body, but earlier on, I was trying to make it clear to the audience that this particular report, because often and many a times we do get it wrong. Like when you're operating a kind of an NGO, and you, the senior staff yourself, cannot go on the ground for probably many reasons, some of them very tangible, but you've got locals on the ground. Those locals are prone to corruption, are prone to being twisted, into writing a report that will probably be massaged or sexed up to favor the person on whose behalf, on the person that they're writing the report about. But this report, with all due respect, commissioned by the IMF says is subject to review, which is the junior staff that have written this report. They will then submit this report to the IMF. The executive body will look at the merits of this report, investigate, assess, evaluate the report. If it is then credible, then they will, take it to the next stage. The floor is yours, sir.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification again. I get the you're trying to make. Like you said, it could be compromised because these are local officials on the ground who could be influenced by powers to be able to massage or sex up the report so that it Leone or we as Sierra Leoneans should look at. It's always the report by the Auditor General, because the all polarization of all the institutions in our country, it looks like the Auditor General report has always managed to rise above all those issues. And the Auditor General herself, Mrs. Like Pierce, on TV, has stated clearly that the money she highlighted that missing to black was in the tenure of this particular SLPP government. That is a I'm making reference to the 141 billion loans. The corruption we are now seeing has moved to another level. In such a way, we've never, it's unprecedented. What I'm trying to make highlight here, it's unprecedented. And unfortunately as well, I also believe we are also witnessing an unprecedented economic situation in our country. With all the steps this administration has taken, which I believe are the wrong steps, and we're seeing things are even getting worse by the day. And now, let me give you a simple example.
When you say unprecedented economic situation, would you want to elaborate? Because there is so much ongoing that some people are getting kind of lost, don't know where to start, because like I'm saying, there is so much ongoing. So what exactly you mean unprecedented?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I will elaborate. The unprecedented I'm highlighting here is we are experiencing economic times that we've never experienced before, even during the crisis that we had in our country. Because we have basic commodities, we have inflation rate of basic commodities and we are up to 70-80%. We have one of the highest unemployment rates we've ever witnessed. And we also have the loss of inward investments. That means investors coming from outside to come and invest in our country has gone down drastically in the country. We have so much loss of confidence that even the local investments have gone down dramatically. And we also see the devaluation of our currency in relation to the international currencies. So these are all what we see now. The rate of it has never been witnessed in the country before. This is what I'm going to highlight. You see? And with all that, we're also seeing a kind of, when you know the last Auditor General report, the money that said that the Auditor General said was missing into a black hole was 37 billion euros. That was one of the highest highlighted in the previous administration. About 37 billion euros was missing. But now this administration, in their first project, in their first audit report, they're missing 141 billion euros. This is staggering. You see the administration take roles. In the first time in that interview, she did yesterday, I think, in the Gambia, she said during the month of Ramadan, she buys hundreds and hundreds of bags of rice and bags of cement, sugar and oil, and she gives that money away from her own parents. When we asked her the question, what job was the first lady doing to acquire short wealth that she's sharing every month of Ramadan? She's took over the reins of power. You know, these are all the clandestine way of defrauding money that we need in our country. And this is categorically clear because everybody, even stone cold supporters of this administration are saying it, and even the president himself acknowledges that things are really, really tough in the country. You see, so with all these instances that I just highlighted, it is categorically clear to me, and I believe to many Sierra Leoneans, that we're witnessing one of the most corrupt administration the Republic of Sierra Leone has ever seen.
Okay, Mr. Mohamed Kamara, I would like to leave it on that note. We are experiencing one of the most corrupt administration the country has ever seen. As usual, we always appreciate your insight and perspective. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Brother Prince. God bless you.
God bless us all. God bless the country. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was the voice of a contributor, and you heard what he did say. Remember that the lines are open just in case you want to make a contribution as well. Tonight, I don't want to have a monologue. I will rather have a dialogue. So please, and make a contribution. 0774010750 is the number to call. So shortly before we got that first caller online, I was trying to develop the argument based on the report of the IMF 2019. And that's the emphasis that I was trying to make, that even the executive body does create a gap between when the report is written, after the report is written, when the report is sent through, the process that it has to go through before finally they can make a conclusion and act on the basis of the merit of the report. So this report did say, while the economy is continuing to recover, the outlook remains challenging and improving. The well-being of Sierra Leoneans is an ambitious endeavor. So it's obvious, and this is fine piece of writing, but most times there is a catch to it. And that's why the IMF says, yes, you've written the report. Yes, we're going to have to look at the report and see what's the truth in this report. So the 2020 budget, remember the budget, the bread and butter budget, it strikes a balance between meeting the country's large developmental needs and navigating the the tight financing situation. So that was the 2020 budget, which was a budget that was being, castigated as the budget, that's going to make the breakthrough, because finally the government of Sierra Leone has accepted the responsibility that indeed the ground is dry, that this budget, proposed budget 2020-2019 is going to be the budget that's going to turn things around. I remember I was on a show or two in different channels, and it's like, you have to look at the substance. You have to look at the circumstances. You have to look at the history. You have to look at the prognosis for you to have a conclusion. And I know I'm being vindicated, because the fact itself, I intend, for government not to succeed. It's just critical. It's just looking at the facts available. So as we speak today, the condition is continuing to be dire. It's continuing to be dire. So despite what this report said, an International Monetary Fund mission was led by Karen Onigli, who visited the shores of the capital back in November of 2019. Remember that? November of 2019. And that's when, about the time of this report, okay? So she held this consultation, had the second review. Remember, I said there have been reviews, and then the arrangements under the extended credit facility. And this is the key word, ladies and gentlemen, I want for you to take note of. The extended credit facility, otherwise known as the three-letter word ECF, which was approved by the executive board on November 30, 2018. November 30, 2018. What did this mean for we people then? This waiting in the try for say, where you go take loans some side, so they get for scrutinize, you document them, because somebody get for make sure say, this me money why they can't give you, you go able for pay them back. So show me evidence for sure say, not to where they can't weigh me money, that when I give me money, I go able to get them back. So then take you through series of processes for proof that indeed you withstand all the shocks, you withstand all the questions asked, you prove enough, say, you were able to give me money, so therefore I approve, say, I will give you the loan. So all of this way the government of Salome they do, and normally this nine of the thing is, you get for meet them criteria and the way they set, you get for meet them benchmark and the way we international donors and partners set before then they take their money due. So during the process then we can fine tune all we best. We get all we find, reporter them, we try to read everybody in place, because when they come to the issue of governance, now a multiple faceted, kind of process in which everybody has to be together. This is why I get upset with people we want talk cheap talk. You want to talk about somebody when they talk, say, in Port No Boil, where you get right for talk about but when we talk about on a country level, we talk about structural, we talk about infrastructure, we talk about policy, we talk about well-calibrated policies to help shift the paradigm so that better you go come. That's what the individual thing in there they talk. They do matter because now they compile. But one individual make noise here and there, you want to compare them, to an entire country. Oh, this person not like this. Oh, this person not like that. That's not my game. That's not my thing. This is my thing that I am talking about here now. So for let them meet up the benchmark that is set by the international community, donor partners, and etc., then get for pass. So during that process, you can find out, say, government is so committed, is so serious, and you get forget all the participants they involve, all the body they involved, whether not the church council or religious council, whether not the think tanks then at the country, whether not all the organization them, the NGOs them, it's everybody on board because the report therefore reflect this kind of scenario. This is what they are looking for, that there is some kind of harmony. There is beauty in this kind of harmony, that the country, is at peace with itself and people are getting along. And so therefore, we need for help. So during the processes, then we are well behaved. We write the report, we talk to people, and when necessary, say, well, all come on board for the goodness of the country and see what happens. As soon as money come out, because remember, say this thing we do now for let money come out. As soon as money come out, if you like the Kalahari or the Okavango desert, jungle rather, now East Africa, also you get a lion and they run behind the animal, the other animal them for eat. Also you get the animal themselves, the graze. In other words, the kind of animal kingdom where when certain setup in the way you can see peace, after a while, when the atmosphere is right, they see that peace day again, when the atmosphere has been made right. In other words, jungle kind of analogy, when proper farming day, farming I mean like now the jungle what they talk about, the land don't dry up, rain no day. So grass no day for graze. The animal them, the herbivores, the carnivores, they all sort of get problem because they're all kind of intertwined. The lives are all kind of intertwined together because the one the way they eat grass get for eat grass for fatting them up, so that the one the way they eat beef and blood, get for fend something, for eat. But because then thing they did not day, then facilities and then not day, people are getting weaker. The animals then they get weaker because they can't find beef with blood for eat. And then when they really graze, because of the rain that they come, you can hardly find a grass na the ground. So they go to extreme circumstances, they go to further afield for try for search. So within that moment, there's a kind of relative peace. As soon as the rain comes and brings back life to this particular region, this once stricken region, where grass begin for shoot, it's all green, the rivers are all overflowing, there's plenty of life. And then you begin to see the trouble because they begin to look for one another and then they in close quarters, in close proximity. It's the same thing. So when they write their reports there, all of their reports there until say, all of this get for be part of the report. And once they make part of the report, the money will come out. When the money come out now, it become a tug of war. Anyway, the economy, according to the report, is continuing to recover with economic growth set to pick up in 2019. Let me read this fast and then we go down to the real story. The economy is set to grow by 5.1%, up from 3.5% that it was in 2018, okay? Which means that there is going to be an anticipation, because when they talk about this, it's in anticipation. It's not happened yet. It's a projection that hopefully is going to happen. And the reason why they do the projection is because they've done calculations, whether in a theoretical fashion, but they know at some point it's supposed to play out. Italic say if you plant your cassada or you plant, you're a farmer, you plant your seeds, you've done what you're supposed to do, you water your seeds, or rain come and water your seeds, just the right amount. The sunlight can be filtered through, here for help, that seed day for grow. Then because it's almost like science that it will grow because you have to facilitate the process. And over a period of time, it is going to pay off. Over a period of time, it's going to pay off. So therefore, you base your projection right on that basis. It doesn't mean that it might not go wrong. Of course, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. Animals then can come and can destroy, and bird then will come and can eat the seeds. Suddenly, there will be droughts, no rains. But on a whole, it's supposed to recover. So now then basis, the dynamic can do that. So on the basis of the anticipation or projection that the economy, which is continuing to recover, it will sustain economic growth up to 5.1%. This now a growth roughly about 1.9% or 1.8%, which is kind of significant. Okay, and it be based on the fact that agriculture, on the projection that agriculture, mining, and construction go day on the up. It go day on the up because people are building. But for let people and build, people and forget the money. Because for let you go buy the cement, you get forget the money. But if the cement dip and go up, then of course that means the scaling of building, will be lower. We will get for construct less. Because why? Cost is gone up. So there's always this fine balance that government institutions they get for maintain for continue a projection which is on a trajectory, not a nosedive. Okay, so that anticipation they been there. So we know say external accounts been done to improve, current account deficit be expect for narrow to from 18.7%, okay, to 14.1% as per GDP. So you see, and the shocks them with them they expect will improve the well-being of the Sierra Leonean. The expected shocks them for improving the well-being of the Sierra Leonean them. It remains a daunting and challenging task. So in this regard, the government's national development plan, the Salon Government National Development Plan, it promise, I repeat, it promise for make the country and put them now a sustainable. You know the reason why I stress on this, because when we come to the real issue, I wonder we bear this at the back of our minds, that we were told one thing and now we are hearing another. And some of us don't understand these reports, cannot break these reports down, cannot read the reports. And it's not like the reports are really challenging. There are some challenging things there, which are of technical difficulties, even to myself, because I'm not a financial expert, neither an economist. But basically, if you find it, you will see and just pay attention and do a study. Do a comparative analysis, go back, look, conclusions, because it gives you dates, it gives you times, it gives you like projections, it gives you on how, why. So all of that, when you balance them, you come to the conclusion and they. So the government panned the report because the report will contain almost everything we expect. It appears for develop the human and physical capital. Remember, every time the president speaks, the president does talk about human capital. Every time the president speaks, he talks about human capital. And there's a reason why the president, they always talk about human capital. I need to get rid of this background. We don't see enough the coronavirus. There is a reason why the president always, they talk about this human capital, because in terms of national growth, nation for better, you always get to pay attention to the human factor, the human development factor. And this president, from the beginning, again, this is critical to this broadcast, they always don't emphasize as to why we need to pay emphasis to the human development factor. Because once the human development factor increases, the responsibility is taken in, we get more educated minds that transform for make the country a viable country on the path of sustainable development. But the interesting question is it so? That is the interesting question. Is it so? And the answer is not. It's not so. It's really not so. So I read one last part on this report, and then we move away and go to the reality of which I want to talk about. You know, we talk about this particular report in many aspects of the development, and the reason why the report review, the ECF, okay, then go able for the executive board of the IMF go able for look at this report, study them, and then they will extend the credit facility where they give a loan. In other words, once the executive body don't approve of them, then money way outstanding, then we'll give you them. So you can understand which side they come up from, so the report get for be fine. And I've seen many reports over the many years written, you know, for meet some certain standard and benchmarks, because again, the indicators them now then relevant world body there, also you get for go look for see where your country stand, where your country lies, how it do, how it perform, what are the indicators, now then reports then they input into them, now then the factor inside the for there you able to see and compare to other countries then as to how we stand on different aspects in terms of national growth, in terms of international growth, in terms of international policy. So the progress under the ECF supported program has helped to stabilize the macro economy, which is true, and therefore now vital launch pad for the government in national platform in developmental, human, and physical capital where it try for progress. The government, as we understand, from the end of June 2019, it meet up all the qualitative performance criteria and indicative targets them where they set for them. So that was a net credit for the government, and the net domestic assets of the Bank of Salon regarding margins, everything in that regard was met. And when I say met, when IMF tells you for do something and then you do, and then they say it's met. It don't mean say, you know, a fine or it gets the immediate finees now. And like me brother last spoke, sometimes you get for scrutinize exactly waiting then they say and waiting it mean for the people. How does it translate to the people? You get for imagine at the time of going into elections before the government of Maada came into power, the IMF had the audacity of telling the government of Sierra Leone, I say the audacity at the time because no government will accept that going into elections, for remove subsidy, going into elections for remove subsidy from basic items that when the government then been subsidized. Little why the government did see that as undermining its efforts, because they tell them, say at the time that then for remove subsidy from rice and petrol and other items then, because they cost the government so much, but then they had to do it in the run up to an election. Not even this government will do that. They will risk everything else, but they wouldn't do that. And not any other government for that matter. None. So, Fambo, then let me go to the reality of the issue. Okay? Let me go to the reality of the issue. And what's in the reality here is, this is it. You know when we take time explain all of them things in there, if you recall, we explain all of them. There is a reason why, and I said so. I hope so they share this video. and this broadcast. And if you get anything, yeah, that you want to contribute, fine. If you're not able for, if you don't want to contribute, that's all right. I mean, I can deal with that. There's enough material, as you can see. There is so much, yeah, paperwork, so much, yeah. Okay, so let's get to the real thing. So the government campaign on one thing, okay? Fambulen, take note. I really want you to take note now, because now we come to the reality of the matter. We are coming to the reality of the matter. That this government, under His Excellency retired Brigadier Julius Maada, it campaigned on the basis of fiscal discipline. A campaign on the basis of fiscal discipline. A campaign on the basis of the management of funds. Those who plundered government coffers, who deprived the people of their well-being, who plunged the poverty, allegedly, into poverty, will be taken care of. And when in Kamna government, it's good for acknowledge that he acquire huge bill. That is just the truth. And we know say the bill been far over $1 billion dollar. In fact, over $2 billion. Yeah. Over $2 billion. And when you look at that $2 billion, now a huge percentage rather, of waiting boku people don't accuse the former president and in government, that's Ernest by Koroma, of rampant corruption and indiscipline in terms of expenditure, in terms of fiscal discipline. So this government campaign on that basis, they will be more responsible. They will sort out the mess, then go eradicate or at least mitigate corruption, then go stop the abuse of power, then go stop all the corruption where they go on, the grafts, the high wage bill, the leakages them, and all the thief. Now, on the basis, ladies and gentlemen, that this government campaign, the reason why we titled the show, The Transformation of Corruption, is because today we are observing corruption in which these people who accused yesterday's people of corruption, today now stands accused of the same corruption. And corruption which is visible, but it's been transformed into something else, we are going to talk about again shortly, because it's like say, to some people, corruption has taken a different definition, and because it's taken a different definition, not in that traditional form in which we knew it or know it, nor in the way as how it were explained to us by this government prior to taking power. So therefore, this cannot amount to corruption, and this is what we want to out here tonight. Okay, this is what we want to out here tonight. You see, Famule, we go back to the IMF report, and there's a reason why we read them, because we want for sure objectivity. That the one who writes the report, and the reason why they write the report, now because you get a benchmark, now because you get a requirement, now because you get a requirement where you get for surpass, where they set you and you get for surpass that, either there or above go always fine. Tell like you do your studies, and then you sort of project the kind of student you are, where go kind of tell the kind of grades that you go attain. But if you study more, it's obvious that you will be above that grade, and being above the grade is better than just being on the grade. So this is what it is. So the government campaign on that basis, and the government take power, and then this review, 3 or 4 of them now since have been written, and of course because on pen and paper, it's an academic process. On pen and paper, it's looking all well, but transforming this is a completely different ballgame because there are no calibrated policies for effect long-term, short-term, and long-term. Because you can't be saying one thing at one side of your mouth whilst you do the other. The president campaign at the time say, then go stop leakages, then go rein in fiscal discipline. That is in effect accusing the previous of just spending rampantly, left, right, and center. So therefore, we will be more responsible. We will be more accountable to the people. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Shortly under 24 months of governing, a wage bill that they met, which was a little over 175 billion, if not a little bit more less, has ballooned. This is not the first time we talk about this. I don't talk about this many a times because it's out there. This wage bill don't balloon. There is more expenditure by government. Is this expenditure is a consequence of fiscal discipline, or is it reckless? And this is a very, very appropriate question. And from all indication, it is reckless. It is really reckless because, again, the same thing, you want hide under, this is the transformative side I'm talking about, you want hide under the wage bill as one way you try for alleviate poverty by improving and increasing employment for the people. But then we now know that those that are being employed are party loyalists. These are the people that are being employed with burgeoning wage bills. And hear this out, and this is part of the corruption which is rampant, that you don't care for staff who have been in existence for a number of years at ministries, whom you've spent millions of dollars or pounds because they go to different countries for study. Well, let's say dollar because that's the greenback that you use for your transactions. And then you take somebody else and bring them over those people with no regards for those people, because those people continue to earn far less, in some cases, 7 times less than the new people brought in. And these people are brought in as consultants over these people and paid this fat wage bills, which has burgeoned, which has widened, which has increased the wage bill over 40% in 2 years. And then you expect some magic and you say you're fighting corruption. And this is the transformation of corruption that I'm speaking about, because you bring somebody over somebody else, pay this somebody else who has got either no knowledge at all, certainly no experience from what we know, over experienced people, ancillary staffs, they call them in the public service sector. These are the people who does the job, but they don't get the pay equivalent of the kind of job that they perform. How then will there not be corruption? And these are the things that you promised us yesterday that you will fight against, that you will stop. Yet we are seeing this over and over and over again with no end in sight. This is shocking, because if the ancillary staff that does the job cannot be motivated, and don't you dare call them unpatriotic as if they don't have life, or lives are the ones that you pay the fat wage bills more patriotic than those that have spent years doing the job, actually doing the job for government, simply because they're supposed to earn more and a better life, but yet the wage disparity is so wide that it is scary. So how don't you expect people to not be motivated to do a job for country and for people? And yet you bring others on the basis of partyism. I call them local strongmen, and we're seeing them. They're now coming, they're now getting brazen. They are coming online for an argument that they are not going to win. I can say this for sure, because everything else is bordered on righteousness. It might take a while, but you know that the truth will prevail. And when we speak from here, not from here. So we know that eventually the truth will prevail. But the powers that be can massage the power, they can sex up stories and the rest of it. And the truth will be struggling somewhere in between. But it never dies and will eventually emerge. This is why people are like us are of the conviction that what we do cannot be wrong, because we're on the side of the public. When we speak, we're on the side of the public. Fewer times you get attacked, and for every one attack I get 15 that come to my rescue. 15 that comes to my rescue. Today was just one of it. You try to encourage people in debates, because this is what we're supposed to be doing. If we want to lift our country up, if we want to help ourselves in our country, we need to continue to have this debate. We need to have the prudence to see when things are wrong. And we talk about it so that we can make an about face. You cannot be a pig. But this is what you are proving every day, that whether you put a lipstick on the pig is just a pig, because it will muddy itself up. And we're seeing this. You're not going to scare us off. And if you want to hold a debate, a healthy debate, you see, none of them are going to call this program. None of them. And I'm challenging them, none of them. Because we're going to talk about substance. We're going to talk about the reality. And they've got nothing to talk about but to be snipers. They try to shoot you at your back. They don't know that your back is protected. But when you have, platforms of this nature for them to come, they never come. They never take the opportunity to bring the argument, because where is the argument? The corruption is being transformed, ladies and gentlemen. The wage bill that was 170 billion is now over 320 or 30 billion, and still rising, on the basis of what? Employing people that are loyal to government, not with the experience, not on the basis of merit, simply on the basis of loyalty, which is autocracy, which is nepotism, which is cronyism, all of the hallmarks of corruption. And this is what it is. And this is the transformation that I'm talking about, of corruption, which is going on now in the country, in which the masses are suffering. And when we speak on behalf of the masses who are in the many and are listening, we get a few sycophants who's got no morals. They want to take a swipe at you on the basis of what I simply don't get it. If you've got an argument, bring it on. But you don't have. Yet you will wait. They will wait after the program, and then they will try to take pot shots. And when you engage them in decent debates, they try to be rude until they meet their match. When somebody of their kind, then bring them together, and then they back off. You've got the First Lady. I have always abstained from criticizing her. I respect the office of the First Lady. But it doesn't mean, that's not just me, that when she does something which is not right, I can call her out for it. Are you guys out there don't have principles? Of course you don't. We've seen your write-ups, we've seen your contributions, we've heard you talk. Of course you don't have principles. It's for what you have now, trying to impress. But that's not impressive because people like you needs to be feared. Because what happens is you are in a state of being a chameleon and it's happened before. You're quick to change. All you have to do is to change colors, just like the chameleon. Tomorrow you will be for somebody else. Tomorrow you will be singing praises for somebody else. No principles, not at all. Somebody else carries the pictures of honorable men as their profile. The late Thomas Sankara, one of the greatest presidents that the Republic of the world ever had, specifically the African continent ever had, who was murdered in pursuit of happiness, emancipation, and total independence of Africans. A principled young soldier who understood what it were to change the narrative that we find ourselves in, to stop this beggar mentality, to stop this charitable industry which is only exploiting our people, which some people, are thriving in, and they think that it's well done, and they've been doing it for donkey years. And I'm asking them, show me one person that you've taken out of poverty. It's just an industry which is a rotating door in which the hierarchy survives and benefits from out of it. But some of you don't know that the UK government is watching. The American government is watching. The French government is watching, and it's a matter of time. You'll be caught. Remember, many licenses have been suspended. Some will be prosecuted. Because if you do give false information, if you do say something which you're not doing, then of course, you will be dealt with by the law. But that's another aspect altogether. The bottom line is why we should be thriving, to get out of this beggar mentality, because that's what it is. Some people are promoting it. You dare have the picture of Robert Mugabe, progressive Africans who never shied away. They were born fighting, they died fighting, and you dishonor their photos by making them your profile while you're doing something completely contrary. That's hypocritical, that's a betrayal. Don't talk to people like you. Don't dignify the ground that my shoes walk on with people of that kind. But ladies and gentlemen, this is the transformation. Sometimes you break away. It's not emotional. It's just how you're addressing people, because they're going to keep getting aggressive while you try to be civilized with them and having a kind of conversation. And I tell you, it's simple. And I'm saying it straight here. They never come on the platform where the rest of the world is either seeing now or are going to see later to have this debate. But they rather take a swipe or a pot shot at you when your back is turned. The back is protected. I only follow the news. And if you think you can get at me, you have to get through a wall of people. Because when I speak in behalf of public opinion, the many, not the few. Ladies and gentlemen, the transformation of corruption is real. We know that a report came out some time ago, which looks like a leak. And when I say some time ago, it's not very long ago, It's been quite recent as in this month that we are in. This government has taken 2 years in office. And in these 2 years, it's unbelievable the level of corruption that they are being accused of, some of which is just blatantly there, out to see. You can almost kind of touch it and feel it because it's thick, it's pervasive. While the people of the country continue to suffer. So I'll talk about the First Lady briefly, where I can try to avoid, but I'm getting into it because we need for critically analyze people them, we leadership them. So if the First Lady come out and make a blunder, and I'm sure say the First Lady self don't see the video, the interview. And I'm not a man, you get conscience. So she might have some regrets. But that depends on whether she's going to double down when she next appears on an audio or video or an interview, as opposed to showing remorse and humility. I put a video on my page where I take na YouTube prior to her becoming a first lady, she was being interviewed by another lady, and she showed so much humility, humbleness, respect and diligence. Now, anyway, Fambul, that na for una for decide. And I know say the public always they watch and they make the decision. The public knows. People like us just highlight it and throw it out there for people to make a decision. And people are making a decision. But I can't just resist. I've never really said this in public. I've never really criticized her. I've defended her. I have said, publicly, and this is true, that you're going to have women who will be envious of the first lady. Of course, it's a natural thing. Who will wish her position was theirs? And a normal thing. But take that for translate them on a national level about development, about structure, infrastructure, policies, and what have you, that's cheap. That's cheap. Yes, some people and they will envy them. I wish them be in a position. And some people will make statements against them simply because they are jealous. They wish that their mother be married. They wish that they may occupy that position there, which is quite true. But doesn't she make blunders? And when she makes these blunders, why we can't call them out? Not only responsibility. You feel say the news media team and the way if you get a proper PR team, a media team, and you guys know that what I'm saying is the truth. Absolutely the truth. But you can't find the courage and the strength and the principle and the integrity, for reconcile with this. And this is disingenuous. Really, really disingenuous on the part of those of you who I sure say you see the truth, but you can't bear yourself or call them out. But if you can't even call them out, why not just keep quiet instead of trying to defend something of that kind? So she is part of me, I'm part of her. The fact that I'm a citizen of the country, there's a contractual agreement. Sometimes it doesn't have to be written. No, doesn't. This is now one of them, just then natural things then. Like, for example, there are many contractual agreements that exist between citizens and the country that are not written, they are not codified, they're just normal and sensible. You therefore behave. There are expectations of you as a citizen. There are expectations of the government by you, the citizen. The government expects you for behave, and the government will play its own part for rewarding you for them behavior and they continue to provide protection, food security, job, and the rest of it. Physical security, health security, education security for you. These are the things. That's why when they go wrong, it becomes an obligation on the part of you as per your civic duty. Hence again, why I put on the platform then few days there, the civic duty. I remember when we went to school. I got school in Salon when the country was sweet. So I don't blame those who don't understand the time that I went to school there or when I was there, because if you come after, you will be speaking to the time that you understand. Same thing, I will be speaking about a time that I understood. And the time that I understood, Salon, such things where they go on now wasn't the same. This was a time when a neighbor will look after another neighbor's child. A neighbor's child is equally the responsibility of that neighbor for make sure that that child they come out fine. Because if they watch him, if you do something wrong, you go the wrong way, the wrong path, do something, he or she will take that complaint to the family, the biological parents or those responsible for that child. And depending on the relationship between these two parties, the other party will not a biological or official caretaker of that child will even discipline that child and nothing will come from out of it. In fact, he or she will be given the mark of approval by that child's parents or caretakers. That's the kind of country that I grew up in. So it's a completely different country that I continue to hear about now, in which the nature of selfishness and the nature of about me and them, we and them, yeah, them and us, red and green, and the rest of it. It's just scary and just needs for stop because the bridge is just getting wide. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about the transformation of corruption. Let me look at the university business, for example. This Lincoln Wingway caused so much problem. Now the country, this BNT. For months and months and months, they've been closed. Not knowing that negotiations had gone on in the background, and no one go too deep, but there were agreements because, of course, now when they take over from the government, it just makes absolute sense that you not just they go close that institution down, because you go get for me. If you have to do that, then you have to put appropriate structure into place for accommodate the situation. Other than that, you just create a more social problem on your hands. So therefore, there was some negotiation. So even though the Lincoln Queen University will have been around some kind of ifs and buts and suspicious or dodgy business, the idea, it was a school structure existing within the country that was producing, teaching children, producing children to be relevant and help in the development of the country. So whatever the case, Fambulen, a government will come na power, we pride itself say, or in flagship program, go be quality, not only quality, but free education, can meet such a thing. Then you want to tell me, say, you know, go accommodate them and stamp your badge of honor param, and then you can use the usual politics, because this is what we hear, that blame game, blame game, blame game. So you blame the rest, but then you take the opportunity for take them, because this is now your flagship program, education. So how you want to talk about this education and then you know want to entertain an institution of education in the country? How? And from your understanding, negotiations have been going on in which they finally arrive at a bill in which this government take responsibility. Only them now for pay up their money there, and then it became a problem, and they never drag their foot ever since, and picking a Sidona home for months and months and months. And then when they couldn't take it anymore, they decided to protest legally. But as usual, the Green Brigade and the vuvuzelas, the cyber vuvuzela then come out and wage a smear campaign. By now, now for the change tactics, because these tactics doesn't work anymore. Everybody don't realize these tactics, that anybody will speak against on the basis of waiting in the field, waiting and actually they go through, then there must be an opposition. Not opposition in the sense like you oppose to waiting and they do, but you belong to the opposition party. That's why you are doing what you are doing, because you don't want to let them better. And it almost the equivalent to the narrative like, people in the country no one for letting country better. This now other thing where I don't accept. I really don't accept it, because it doesn't really make sense. It doesn't really make sense that you get people where no one for letting country better. A staff will lie. It's not possible. It's not possible. Yeah. We get for learn how to interpret how people then they exhibit or exercise them protest. We really need to understand that, how and why then they do that. But you interpret and say, now because no one let the country go before, oh, the country who side and get for worker. The country who side, all man by nature are aspiring. Everybody, they want better. Who that they want to want clean environment? Who that day like when we there abroad, we know one day inside an apartment block, when they can't pick you dirty. Like when we go up in Freetown, that was it, and they can't pick you dirty and can't go sweep the streets, clean the streets. Who that they will not want that? Pass you not for now. Yeah, and you know what the country go before, because probably go be more than your country you say you come out. But who that they will not want that? Then part of that, and this is the argument, you the born picking. So you they say you don't want for let your country go before, even though you the born picking, and the idea behind where you born picking is definitely you want for let you picking better. So how you go there, you know want for let your country make progress, how you picking and go make progress. But yeah, we left that talk this after. So ladies and gentlemen, when they talk about how this transformation of the thing don't happen. So they can't pay the money when they negotiate from the Queen University. So it became a draw. And then before you know, they don't paste everybody else with protest simply because they are not gone to school for like months. They've been patient. They've been negotiating in the background with the government. We see the letter will come out when they ask for a protest, say, but this is don't pass mark. They meet with the police authorities and the rest of it. But the Green Brigade, the cyber vuvuzela there, but they don't come out with the age-old tactic way it's becoming so irrelevant now because you're so much in the few and you are receding. You need for take change tactic. That is not going to win you any progress at all. Famulem, look at the 140 billion hole na the country budget. I mean, at the audit report, forensic. Today we know nothing about that. Before that, the ACC boss, who has become a defendant of the government now, because it has become clear that this fine young man, promising, well, of course, has taken side. No longer that independent boss that he was meant to be, that he swore to be, are still getting recorded in and I do listen to them. And if you look now one of my live feed, you go see that we will pursue corruption wherever it takes us. You know, now then clip them or then sound bites them with the Western world and we donor partners then it's clear now, I make a read that IMF report, the ECF and November 2019 report. Now the equivalent down, they're waiting the people away eventually get for BUE, your loans, one for year. Now we will pursue them. So it's not only limited to those that we are pursuing now. At the time that this was stated, it also meant that if it calls for that I go or outside corruption, they lead me and I'm employer them, I will not back off, I will not hesitate. 2 years on, Mr. Francis Ben Kaifala, think about that statement there on reflection and see exactly what in the happen now, boss. See exactly what in the happen. Chief Minister, 1.5 million. Today we haven't heard anything, and we know say there are circumstances and some evidence will emerge. We make Chief Minister should have been in the dock at your office. But what you did, you protect him. What you did, you back him publicly. 140 billion and 70 billion na finance. What you do, you back the minister. What you do, you back the financial sector. And physically, then holds them they been there. Why didn't you ask for accountability then and come and can account for them? But you provided a dodgy explanation. In other words, Sajusu, we don't can tell you. Whereas the thing come up financial sector, and you can see the gap inside the explanation that somewhere along the line, it just doesn't match up. It not sum up at all. So therefore, there are questions left. And then you just expose yourself because it's clear. From would look what thing happen in Parliament where Parantarawali and Tawa, when they hold on, they begin pull inside secrets there, which are related to corruption. Why Francis Ben Kaifala not get involved? They be promised they get involved. How long has it been now? We don't hear in that case there? No. These are all corrupt practices, and therefore the progress way for them make instead a deeper reverse under the watchful eyes of the ACC boss. Because why? These are their own. These are their kinds. These are their very own, and this is what they're trying to defend. And it is becoming obvious that this is it. From today, we know that case again, and in fact, Tawa, who had become the equivalent of a rebel child, is now kind of quiet. Because why? They don't charge them with anti-party activity in which a minister, where they go shoot Pekina in place, where 30 differences Ben Kafala and all raise that case the yet. And the man will understand, say, command the minister in place, and take all the actions that were necessary, where it seems like there's not going to be any investigation, or the investigation has been whitewashed. It's now with new IG, and we try for scrutinize and look at him past history, and we will do a show on him pretty soon. Tawa don't go quiet. No investigation, as was promised by Mr. Ben Kaifala. No investigation at all. But yet they continue to pursue others who does not belong to them, which is political intimidation of the highest kind, that's exactly the path that they pursue, which is unfair, okay? Because the need for be balanced. This is what you told us from the beginning. What about the 1.5? Nothing happened? Seriously? But again, there is something where they happen at the country where I don't know whether this is me, and again, I'm throwing this out. Journalists have become eerily quiet. Eerily quiet. I use that word there because it don't become inconvenient for the kind quietness on issues of national significance. 140 billion forensic report, zero. Then transform them into something else. The ACC boss comes, he make a lengthy explanation in which he doubled we. But in the end, there was 140 billion hole, a black hole. With 30 days, we know how it passed. Where is this 140 billion? There should have been some accountability. Instead, the ACC boss goes back because there were no correlation in the past and in the present, and this report not being connected to this, and the rest of it, which was deliberate. And you know what? Mrs. Lara Pierce herself has become quiet. Would they hope say she will write a book? Would they hope say one of these days she will come out? And when I say come out, if anyway, come back, can sit down with him, picking and grand picking them abroad, and then write a book so that we will understand these things. Because history will not be kind to you for all of this. And I shall say, apart from some people, you must care for your legacy. Because few of them don't really care about their legacies, about what they get now. The minister, they get over 85 million, 86 million salary. And the only excuse we can provide for that salary day. And remember, you see, we get forget the catch. The excuse what we get for the salary is, well, and the salary we are inherit. Yeah. And once you hear that argument there, it sounds very much like a very fair argument, because it's not like my salary was added with any more 1 penny. No. Now, what my predecessor will get? Now, the same thing now they get. Nice argument. Where's the fourth line? Where's the transformation of corruption? Hear this out. On the campaign trail, we go do wages or salary structural adjustment for reflect the reality. This was a promise made by the president, the current president. 2 years on, the wage bill of them people there, that one game Monday, equivalent to 10, between 5 and 10 of his staff. See your staff then at the place they, apart from one particular person where they make equally a lot of millions, probably a little bit less than half of what the minister they make in the financial sector they make. So what have you reined in? Let me look at the NRA. The NRA, of course, now one of the fabulous agencies that the way they generate money, wonderful. So now the government in blue-eyed boy in a sense. So they're massive revenue generation. And if you look inside the IMF report, it did it, because they kind of focus on local revenue generation for help for avoid debt, pay off debt, so that you will be focused nationally. But then you get to ask yourself, and I think this, when you try to write the report only for satisfy, you creditor them, you forget waiting for come back for hunt you, or waiting the people themselves can really scrutinize, which is, where is the tax base for this NRA, or the essentialities for consolidate and provide a sustainable revenue stream for over a period? Because we don't see exactly what's in the happen now. That waiting and say, and not only exactly they happen, because of course they fluctuate, and because of the depreciation in the currency of the country, because of the high inflation rate, say it gets a significant burden on the value of the money. So therefore, all the millions or trillions when you generate in tax because of them factor, and they were just give you just now. The value is less than it will normally be. So without a sustainable, concrete, well-calibrated, thought-out structure, financial structure, tax-based structure, policy structure, it bound for fail. It bound for fail. Salaries are not being paid, and that's what you said you were going to be paying salaries, and people are in denial. You actually get physical people that they grown, we know they get salary, then we mama them, we papa them, we auntie, we uncle them. No, they get salary. But of course, the idea is we can share similar sentiment with government that this is the thing, like times are hard and people need to understand. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. So we get for be patient, we get for exercise patience, please. This is the struggle now, but the end will be good. But no, this is not the case. Instead, there was a wedding. And you talk about the wedding, why people struggle, and it's like, well, I can get wedded anytime. It's my private where? You're not private. You're not. You're public official, you say you're private is the same thing. Group of Sierra Leoneans, they manage to get hold of the wage bill and publish them. And then suddenly the government, the Ministry of Finance, will take action against people and we publish something way for be public. The public has to, see exactly what they go on. Now they're right. So there has to be a source or a place outside the public can go and get information there when they want them. This is no secret. But again, they can continue to take advantage of we because you get the sycophants who will beat the drums in the wrong way, even though they're few, but they try for beat and louder for drown the voices of the many. But it's not going to work. My appeal to you, Sierra Leoneans, is take advantage of the situation. Begin for read more, begin for demand more, begin for look for information so that you go empower your mind and make decisions which are not twisted, carved by others, or at least when they give you that information, before you make a decision, is based on informed choice, that you don't check here, check there, and you're familiar and you're aware. The information they want to be all day available. I just take time for look for them. Be it the IMF report, be it the Ministry of Finance, be it the wage bill, it's available there. But because we know they take advantage, so the few of we take advantage, they can want threaten we, as if we not get it right. We do have a right. We do have a right to be able for access then reports in the who that they make this money and why do they make this money. We need to know. These are taxpayers' money. Now we tax, now they pay them. That's why we need to know. So formula, these are the transformation of corruption. They want them way been they accused the other one day yesterday of corruption. Today they stand accused. They pay themselves this massive wage bill, sack people left, right, or take other people and can put them over other people, call them consultants and the rest of it, and pay them fabulous wage bills, and they happen for be, party sympathizers and the rest of it. And this is what is going on now in the country, where others cannot afford at all. At a wedding where the Minister of Finance was seen splashing money on the president with that alien culture. That culture is not ours, but yet they continue for indulging that, and the people cannot talk because they think they can take advantage of the people. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the transformation of corruption. And Mrs. Lara Pierce, therefore, really let we know waiting to go on with that 140 billion missing, or why Francis Ben Kaifala not take up that case there up till now. The 70 billion from finance, why Francis Ben Kaifala not take note of that case there up till now. The Bobo Ibrahim, who was tortured in plain sight of the cameras by a potential candidate for a member of parliament in the country, and she's still running around. No action has been taken. Ballot boxes broken into, a sacred place for exercise with democracy broken into, no investigations up till now, even though there were phases that were visible, ID cards were known, places people were seen who were known, that are working for government with no names, no action taken up to today. and we should not be talking about this. First Lady held an interview, and the interview was a debacle, and we should not be talking about this. This is all because of the transformation of corruption. You keep quiet because it's not like the way it used to be. This is different, and we are doing it differently. Fambuland, there's a rise in unemployment. Inflation, they on the rise. The loans, they in decline. Exports, they in scarce supply. Poverty, they on the rise. All this, they happen during a very critical time in the history of the world. This time, not only us. You get coronavirus in the background. You get coronavirus in the background. And normally, the country that we can come to a rescue can always, as at this time, they look after themselves because he also serious on them. So instead of we take actions that we've been advised to take, or we necessary for let we take, or avoid, for prevent this looming catastrophe where WHO, World Health Organization, don't declare as a pandemic, we still converge and we talk about appearing in a stadium, thousands of people, thousands and thousands of people potentially. This is irresponsible. This is actually irresponsible. And we won't take this lightly. We will not sit down and take these things lightly. Some time ago, I think last week, the ADB boss, and the African Development Bank boss, they visit the country. As soon as they visit the country, there'll be another photo, public relation effort again campaign. It's all over the place. How does that bear fruit, here on with people simply because the ADB boss visit? When they look at the substance, now on whose basis we visit? What he say? We know the public statement they will make. Of course, these are just normal public statements, whether officially I can make. How does that transform the situation of the country? Is it not dire enough that we cannot get grip of the nosedive in currency in the country? That inflation is hardly under control? That the wage bill don't swell from 170 billion to 240 billion inside 2 years. And yet the promise was fiscal discipline, infrastructural changes, the fight against corruption, plugging leakages, and bringing sanctity and peace to government. Today we continue to see the complete opposite. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be also supposed to talk about the corruption inside the house of not the house per se, inside the office of the First Lady. We know say this being don't come out, don't talk. You see something the way you talk, from that talk the way you talk. Now there we can use your assessment and based on the small evidence what we get. And then we formulate them, and then we throw them out there. Let's have a conversation around that. On whether you've been paid or not been paid. I don't know why that became an argument, because we know that the office of the First Lady is not a paid a job. It's more like a ceremonial job. There's nothing wrong if this First Lady is trying to transform that particular office day of the First Lady from a traditional one to a more proactive one, while she herself tries to avoid politics, because in the history of the world, all the First Lady them we try for partake in politics actively with their husband them, and not go down well at all. And the legacy turn out to be bad. Now, in make First Ladies' positions are normally, routinely, more ceremonial, in which they can get platforms of their own where they can use that bully pulpit, that power pulpit where they get, that big bullhorn where they get, by virtue of their position of marrying to the first gentleman of the country. They can use that in a positive sense for help for change the perception of society, for try for, like we continue to promote, change the poverty level, accommodate a lot of people, take people up from the position where they're in now of poverty into something else, change the mindset, which are good things. But no, do you expect me, almost in a sarcastic fashion, or take me private money? Maybe she meant it in a good way, but it's the way she said it. Hence the comparison between the video of then when, before she became First Lady, in which she appeared very, very humble, showed a lot of humility and empathy, as opposed to the one now when she sits at the table on the crown with the crown. You don't expect me to use my private money to go and change the situation, Nabo. That should not be the answer of the First Lady. Traffic wasn't blocked. How did you ferry 300 guests, here around? That should have been a different answer. Somebody asked me, what do you mean when you say a bigger opportunity for make amends? Now what the answer? Because I not be need for answer. I give you the point of reference, which is the video to the First Lady in interview. So now at the time for answer that I not necessarily need for answer that. The proof is in the pudding. Okay, the proof is there. I know they gave you money. There were things, or the way it was said, it wasn't really, really necessary for let you say, or it could have been said differently. Even though the journalists strive for press, and that was good journalism. And you could see the journalist was enjoying it somehow. You could see in body language, it's like, well, yeah, I'm going to push this. And this is good journalism. You do follow up. I hear some people that say it was planned. But yeah, of course, most interviews on that level, they can be planned because you get for meet and then you get for seek clearance. It's like, what are you going to ask me? Yeah. So that the person on the other side is prepared. Very few people can say, no, I don't care, about forward preparation. Just bring it on. I'm ready. So anyway, we been say we go do a report on corruption inside in office, and we know say we get people inside in office where they receive massive sums of money, as salaries. And this is not the thing we want to talk about, and this is not part of the thing we talk about here today, the transformation of corruption. Because you can see it's a pattern, it's a routine, okay, that cronies have been brought in, party stalwarts have been brought in, party heavyweights, party faithfuls, party sympathizers have been brought in. Then term them as consultants and give them other titles and pay them heavy wage bills. We don't help for balloon the wage bill. So how are you going to rein in corruption? How are you going to rein in the excesses of government, where instead of fiscal discipline as you promised, in which probably you forbid don't curtail down the wage bill, as you meet them by reducing salary and try for closing the disparity between the one where they make tens of millions of leons as against the one where they make hundreds of thousands of leons when they actually do the job. And when you consider the rate of inflation, and maybe you say you give people a 10% wage rise, then you have to consider the significance or whether it make any significance at all. And to many people, that change did not make any significance at all. I mean, they make 600,000 and give me 1 million. The rate of inflation is 18% or 18.5%, if not more. Let's see how much goods and services has gone up. The price of goods and services has gone up. And then we see how, the difference where this particular wage where you give me, if not a bad name. So it's not. So now it make, the disparity we get try for rein them in. But of course, this is not happening. So the same thing in the office of the First Lady, that we got wind of a report that a lot of people there are making millions and millions of leons on salary. And we understand about the connection between the State House and the office of the First Lady, not in a good way per se, because they do supposed to have correlation between the two places, the First Lady's office and the First Gentleman's office. But in this case, now how money they change and how money they pass and how it's not supposed to be, but the Ministry of Finance get all the receipts they need. And one day, and hopefully very soon, it's going to come out. Now, let me end on this note because I think I've spoken a lot. Okay? This is the thing. It's unfair to the past government, Fambulem, really unfair to the past government. And this is the thing I want to listen carefully. Everyday blames doesn't really work, because even as the new government don't take over, so now what it is supposed for doing now for build on the advantages of the last government so that it can be commendable and profitable to the new government, because they are both supposed to be about and for the people, not about for and themselves. No, But instead, what this government has continuously continued to do, just like Donald Trump in America, oh, I blame Obama for everything. He didn't do this, he didn't do that. The call was perfect, and I'm sure what I'm saying is right. It's almost the same thing that this government is doing. Every day, blame game of the past government to a point where, if not everybody has had enough, because I don't have the figures, but a lot of people has had enough. They just want to see actions now taken to benefit the many and not the few, not the blame game. You see something happen, and let me say this, I've been not saying them before, and I say them again, and I sure say I will say it again, although I avoid them for a long time and can try to avoid them. We on this platform like for speak facts, and we know say people in the listening, and people do appreciate the facts that we speak. The government of Ernest Bai Koroma for 11 years, that ruled Sierra Leone for 11 years. We attained independence back in 1961. All the governments put together since 1961, this will be the late Sir Milton Magai, the father of the nation, may his soul rest in eternal peace. In brother Sir Albert Magai, may his soul rest in eternal peace. Cyril Jackson Smith of the National Reformation Council, may his soul rest in eternal peace. Siaka Probin Stevens, may his soul rest in eternal peace. Joseph Saidu Momo, may his soul rest in eternal peace. Captain Valentine Strasser, and the current president, who was then president for 3 months. When you put all the governments then they together, then developmental goals and aspirations and etc., the government of Ernest Bai Koroma worked, produced, get things for show for, tangibly, where you can touch and feel and enjoy up to this day, worked more than all of these governments, all. Did you hear me? Make I repeat. All the government and they from independence to prior to the elections of 2000, and I won't stop on to Captain Strasser, honestly, because I can put all of them inside, because the 11 year, and it's by Koroma in government, walk past them all. They get things the way they can show for, whether now water process, because people they don't know. And I've been on do this broadcast some time ago. I know say we get beaucoup people the way they watch and they're very new to the program. But ladies and gentlemen, we've been speaking for over 2 years. Okay, for over 2 years we've been speaking. All you need for doing now for go now YouTube, we get over 130 some more videos are there, so you will get chance for go back to some of the videos. Then we've been talking about things. So the thing is not only about today. So the Ernest Bai Koroma government is not only about roads. Roads very, very significant, and I will touch on them briefly before the end. But there were programs, water programs all over the place. Electric programs. When you take over, the electricity wattage was about, I think, 6% kilowatts or whatever. I've forgotten the stats. I've got it somewhere. Maybe I will get for do a report on that again. And by the time that they left, it's over 1,000. Over 1,000. Remember when they say, oh, lights don't kayanda, they come for 30 million, oh, lights don't kayanda. It's not like I'm trying to blame the past government, the late Pakaba, may his soul rest in eternal peace. But that was the circumstances at the time. And I know they blame him again because he took over a transitional process in which the country been just come out from 10 years of senseless war, in which gradually what we begin to see is like we lost, we compared towards them for almost nothing. Father forbid. This is the point. So you get roads, and people then go say, well, Pakababi no lay the structure then down. Of course, Pakababi lay many of these structures then down. It is true that international organizations after war then come to people and rescue, and as long as you put the package right together, they will come to your rescue. So yes, under Pakaba then draw all, they were the architects of a lot of the things that happened under that 11-year rule. But under that 11-year rule equally, there were things that can be attributed to the architects of some of the things that happened can be given to that particular government. And we need to acknowledge this, not the blame. So running water, electricity, the roads were dilapidated, and we need to understand what roads actually mean. waiting roads when we talk about with development them, all them feeder roads in the. If you go to the World Bank report, it will clearly explain to you, say, the way we've been moved. I'll give you one particular example, or one particular example. Bintumani. When we talk about Bintumani, most people, of course, the new one, them all they think about is Bintumani Hotel and the rest of it. But the highest peak now West Africa is a peak called Bintumani, where situated in our country. That entire area there is a protected area. It's a colonial protected area. It's a United Nations protected area, heritage-wise. Okay, we get wildlife there and etc. But the country beyond there is so much of a dilapidated condition that that area there was forgotten about, completely forgotten about. Okay, in which there were no roads, accessible roads for reach the people the way they did. We mama them they die when they get pregnancy and they want born picking them. The bridge was there over 120-year-old bridge. We're supposed to be a really imagine that fambulem. Okay, we cut off the people from that ending. Goods then they commodity, services then they commodity come na tongue, from tongue the other way, nothing. So na Guinea, na they people they do business inside Sierra Leone, take it inside Sierra Leone, na Guinean money na them they use, na Guinea na them they go on them business there, na Guinean hospital then na them they go until the All People's Congress Party come and can on a road day. So by the time they left power, it's over 1,000+ kilometers of roads now in them build interconnecting the country, and we see them today. But the unfortunate thing, the hypocritical thing, instead of we appreciate this and build upon this, you go Yeri, Sierra Leone and them discernible ones. Them they talk about well, the roads were not proper, they were not thorough. Look how we are losing them now and the rest of it, even though we know those roads have been used. And I mean, they say if you go now the World Bank report and you read up about the roads, it will tell you exactly, because you probably may not understand the essence, the significance of the road they are. Prior to the building of the road, there were restrictions. Now I make a try for go back to Bintumani, so I go able for explain that they what it exactly it mean, what it Bintumani mean. So Bintumani now means these are the kind of things them way will be the miss. So as soon as we get them, we not be the before we get them, we'll not be able for travel like even 5 minutes. Things they slow we down, it take we hours before we reach we places that we will want to go. Hours before we reach we places. Because of road infrastructure, modern road infrastructure, the connectivity of roads, feeder roads, local, wide, countrywide, that has been reduced significantly. So USA you've been spend 20 minutes plus for go. Now you're spending only 2 minutes, between 2 minutes and 5 minutes. Interpret that and try for see waiting exactly that they mean fambulem. Just try for interpret that the waiting it mean. And then we see whether you understand where we are coming from. Try for it. So if you go outside and it will take you 20 minutes and I sell you in a go sell, and you'll be even restricted by virtue of how much you can carry. But now you get enough speed for carry your goods. You can even go come back. You can even carry more. Why wouldn't they think on a different level on how to translate this and turn them into money? The power of money. But instead, we depend condemn, and government officials then they entertain this deliberately, because when you they fail, you they accept waiting the rubbish where people and they talk, and you they try for dwell into that and deprive your people them. But now this platform is not going to work, not at all. So Fambulen, these particular things them I've been want to say to we tonight. We go continue for bring the message home. I decide not for press on the issue of the office of the First Lady, because the documents they were being wait for and not get them, but I know for sure say then documents and they get for come out. We go explain the connection between the State House and the First Lady's office, corruption at the office, the payment of salaries to people, the same thing number where they happen in other divisions of government, where they pay them millions and millions of loans, and we don't know why. Why will people then continue for suffer? We know say under the past government, there were difficulties, and this is not the other thing again I want to talk about before I close, and I'm just 2 or 3 minutes, fumble, and bear with me. Ebola. Okay. I'll try for talk this because I think I don't do 2 programs on in the past 2 years. The government of Salone under Ebola spend their own money under Ebola. I repeat, the government of Salone, for take care of the people, spend billions of loans on the people. Then your money, the government of Salone. We can confuse them, and some people they use that because they know, but they use that for talk about the nature of corruption under that, and then they say corrupt practices not happen, but we need to understand this, that the government itself use in your money for help for in people during the Ebola period. We normal international partners they spend millions of dollars, which is factual, in the help with Ebola crisis in the country. The people where they give them money, remember when I read the IMF report, there's a significance why, and let we follow. Pardon me. The people where they give the money, now the people now the ground, the NGOs, just like the IMF reports, when they want for write them, they use them people the local staff them, other people where they can send and can write them, when they not write them, they submit them. Same thing. When they send them money, then the European Union government, USAID, United States Agency for International Development, and the UN body them, now the agency, the NGO, the women, they ride all the motorbike, then they 4x4 motorcar, and they. When the scourge had been curtailed and there was time for the bookkeeping process, these international donors came to government because the whole government responsible because now government. But the mistake where they make, because first of all, normally what they can do, they can use government agencies for use them for distribute their funds and they, but for avoid the same corruption because government then was a suspect, then go directly with the agencies then where they use. When time came for book reading, then turn around, then go to government. Now government say, hey, come on, you can't be serious. Who did you give the money to? Of course, they answered their own question. It was a rhetorical question, and they know the answer. So government say, go to who you give you money, which were their own agencies, their own parastatals, them, now the ground, their own people, then now the ground. So they go to their own people, them, when they go there, of course, now they corrupt the money, not government. Government, your own corruption, now between itself, your own money, where it give your own people, them, billions. During the Ebola crisis as well, the government be able for raise salary. Of course, they raised the salary before the Ebola, and they're able for, because by then, there was reserve in the country. The mining was booming. We could complain about taxation, of course, but it was booming. So government began small reserve. And now they speak with authority because I've been privy to documents of that nature. So I understand, say, governments go able for cushion the blow for 6 months on their own. 6 months. In other words, even though the crisis been so serious, people were dying left, right, and center, and there was no work because people were being quarantined, the nation was partially under lockdown, government was losing billions and billions of loans every day on a tax basis. Notwithstanding, within 6 months, government had enough that they were able for bear the blow. But after that 6 months, it got difficult. And government did. Now the government pay people them during all their term then they. Pointing at the analogy of this story is we get for be genuine to ourselves and we get for be real. Yes, there is party politics they play, but somehow, somewhere, the party politics for take a backseat and national politics supposed for take a hold in which we talk about real issues, not party issues, not petty issues, real issues. Talk about the development. Talk about what's wrong and what's not wrong and how we can move on. These are the points now they try for make. So then development and you inherit them and you are benefiting from them. The people are benefiting from them. Some hospital the way you open. Now, as a consequence of your predecessor in action them. Similar thing like your predecessor, some of the action the way it take it based on your own predecessor them. This is the process and this is the way it works. But the condemnation, the indignity where people in the tribe for subscribe to the former is uncalled for. There has to be respect so there can be a sustainable continuation. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I've said enough, and we will be back. Remember, I've been saying I will do a program on Cao de Nero on Wednesday. Then try for undermine the program as usual by stopping one of the guests from not appearing. I don't know how does that stop the program. What sense does it make? And we Sierra Leoneans have to rise up to the challenges that we can't have fools for the lead we. It just doesn't work. We have to have minds of our own. When you come now, a plan for say. And when you can, once you not like what is being said, of course, you're being given an opportunity. As long as you're not being shut down, you're given the opportunity to express yourself. And if you're being shut down to a point which becomes inconvenient, you've always got the nuclear option, I call it the nuclear option, of unwiring yourself if you have been wired up and walk away. That's what it is. It's as simple as ABC. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much for listening. Today, the 15th of March, 2020. Me now a humble host and presenter Prince Emil Kroma, the Canto live. We are not going to relent in speaking in behalf of the people. As much as you intensify the attacks, those attacks will be combated. Every day, probably when this program finishes, of course, I'm going to have people who will say negative things, but trust me, the thing where they drive me a conviction, the thing where they make I continue for do and say waiting at the do, now the fact that the many appreciate the program and not the few. I want to say thank you very much for listening. And I want to go back to the sing where I play at the opening. I want to close them. That a Michael Jackson song, very wonderful song. Very, very